I'm Anna Turney. I'm a two-time Paralympian in alpine ski racing. I'm also a mum and I do motivational speaking and mentoring of athletes. I had a spinal cord injury 12 years ago where I was snowboard racing, jumped a big jump, overshot the landing and crashed, broke my back at T11, which is about tummy button height. So I became paralysed from the waist down. Being paralysed means loss of sensation and loss of the ability to move. I have an incomplete paralysis, so I have a little bit of movement in my thighs, but I can't feel or move at all below the knees. I can't stand up and I can't feel temperature, and I have some leg spasm, which basically means the muscles just tense up at times and can affect your balance. But I'm pretty fortunate because I have quite a low spinal injury and I still have the use of most of my core muscles, so that helps enormously with balance. I first heard about Paralympic skiing whilst I was in hospital in Japan. So I broke my back in Japan, spent 5 weeks there, and a friend of mine came to visit and he knew I was massively passionate about snowboarding. That was my whole life. And he showed me a picture of a guy like flying through the air on a weird looking contraption sitting down. And he explained that he'd met this guy and I could speak to him. So I learnt about sit skiing, which is what I competed in the Paralympics in. And as soon as I'd heard about that, I said, I'm gonna have a go at that. Whatever happens, that looks so fun. And so that became my dream, really, my thing to focus on and work towards. And then the doctor said, not for a year, you need to do your rehab and get better and get strong. So a year after I broke my back, I went on a charity course to learn how to sit ski and absolutely loved it after a few days of frustration. And yeah, so it kind of came from there, really. So by the time I started learning to monoski, I was already playing basketball, swimming, hand cycling, so out and about and quite fit. So I was physically able to transfer into the sit ski, which is basically a carbon fibre seat mounted on top of a motorbike shock on a single ski. And then in my arms I had outriggers, so crutches with small skis on the end of them, which help you balance. And I only ever used a monoski, which is the one ski version, but there are loads of different pieces of kit. So basically anyone can ski, it's brilliant. Whatever your disability, there's a way that you can get out into the mountains and do it. And it's so liberating. You're out there and you're in the mountains, and now I can go as fast or faster than anyone else and just cruise around the mountain completely independently. It's amazing. So I became part of the British disabled ski team a year after I started skiing at the development squad, and it was incredible. So suddenly, for the first time, I was out there on a team trip with the best people in Britain, which was just amazing, and I felt kind of a bit out of my depth, but still in complete awe of these people. It was a pretty full-on training program. There's a lot of fitness, a lot of balance. I built up a lot of strength. So I was doing 3 strength programs, like pushing weights in the gym. So I was pushing weights, I was skiing day in, day out in the winter, doing a lot of balance exercises. In the summer, I'd mostly do cardiovascular training and strength training, so a lot of swimming. I did some triathlon, a lot of hand biking, playing wheelchair basketball, because you do need a lot of fitness, plus you're at altitude. I quite liked the training, so mostly it was fine, although you do push yourself to the limits. But as a team, we were there in all weathers, even if it was a horrific gale, we'd still be out training. We're pretty tough as far as teams go. Yeah, it's a brutal sport because you are out there in all weathers, and the weather in the mountains can change just like that. It was pretty cool to be able to travel all over the world to do ski racing. Exhausting and physical, but exciting. And I really love travel, and I love different cultures, and I'm interested in that. It can be a challenge travelling on airlines. Generally, as long as you prepare them in advance, it's fine, and as long as they don't then lose your luggage. So since retiring, I've been involved in a project with HVM Catapult, which is an engineering setup, to showcase British engineering, and they designed and developed a new monoski. So that was really exciting to be part of that. So I do public speaking. I did a TEDx talk, which was just after I'd had my baby, so it was pretty full on to suddenly dive back into that. But yeah, I go into businesses, I talk about diversity and inclusion, teamwork, leadership, skills development, and I also work with the Dame Kelly Holmes Trust, developing and supporting young people to become the person they want to be. And that's amazing work, often working with unemployed young people or people who have special educational needs. It's amazing when you feel that perhaps a little bit of input from you and a lot from the young person, and they've managed to turn their lives around as a result of that. And I also go into schools and do talks in schools and prize giving and that sort of thing. I mentioned basketball, but I play wheelchair basketball for Warwickshire Bears, which is brilliant. It's really like a family environment. They're such a great team, and the sport is fast and exciting, and I'm excited to be really developing the skills, because I've dabbled in doing a little bit for years, but now I'm able to really train a bit more regularly. I'm doing loads of yoga, which I love. Yoga is something that's always helped me. So I began practicing yoga just probably the year before I became paralysed, and really enjoyed it. And it helped me deal with becoming paralysed, I think, because it was just a time where I could take myself mentally away from the fact that I couldn't do things and just sit and breathe and stretch, and that's been great. The team kind of teased me because I was always stretching. But it's brilliant. And the meditation as well. So I'm part of a setup called the True Athlete Project, which is all about mentoring young athletes, using former athletes to mentor young athletes to become better athletes, but also better people, and to gradually change the world to be a more compassionate place. That's really great. And through that, we've been doing mindful sport performance enhancement, which is a course helping people to become better athletes through mindfulness, which is basically just being in the moment, not worrying about the past or the future, because you can't change them, but observing the moment you're in now non-judgmentally, and just saying, right, this is the situation we're in now. Because I'm not being emotional about it, I'm able to think about the choices and act accordingly. So that's really exciting. And I also mentor athletes through the University of Birmingham, young athletes, and that's great, again, to feel like I can give a bit of input and kind of give back a bit. With the yoga, I get out of my chair and lie or sit on a mat and try and do the poses. So the seated poses are often okay for me to do. I have a yoga teacher, so she supports me and helps with balance or to move my body into a better position. And you do all the movements just with breath, so that's a nice way to do it. But obviously I can't do some of the poses because I can't stand or sit in certain positions, so I've just tried to adapt it. I have a cousin, Vicky, who's a yoga teacher, so when I first became paralysed, I remember spending time with her. Most people, regardless of your ability or disability, are able to do some sort of yoga breathing and some sort of yoga, I think, with some support. So I'd recommend it to anyone.